It's Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys with Joe Shasky, Mark Willard, 2 episodes a week. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss one. All right, let's continue with the Longoria conversation. And where are you on this? And just to set the table, Evan Longoria next year has a $5 million buyout and essentially a $13 million contract. And it is a team option. So they can pick it up, but they're paying at least 5 either way, which essentially means if you want him, it's another 8. Do you want Evan Longoria on a pitch count on your roster next year for $8 million?
I feel like I've done the full 360 of emotions on Longoria. He sucks me back in, and I'm like, he's not that bad. When he's out there, he's a good ball player. Couple of hits yesterday, and I'm like, but I know he's going to get hurt, and you got to get younger. That's the thing that frustrates me, and I know that they're going to say, hey, he's going to be a role player. They have to turn the page. It's hard for me to say because he does give you good at-bats. He does. He is a good defensive player, although he booted one the other night. They've got to just turn the page. They have to, if for nothing other than to make the average age of the infield slightly younger.
So here's what you're spot on with regard to going round and round in full circle. There's probably no other day in the last year and a half where I would have said I'm open to keeping Evan Longoria, but suddenly today is the first. And here's why.
Okay.
What Gabe talked about was doing something with Evan next year, like what they did with Buster Posey last year, which is a very disciplined approach to when he plays and when he doesn't, because there is no doubt he does not have 140 plus games in those legs.
Absolutely.
He does not. So if you're playing at third base, and remember, Luciano kind of looms here too, but if you're playing at third base for right now we want Villar, we want to be open to Casey Schmidt being on the left side of this infield, and we're also bolstered by the presence of Wilmer Flores.
Yes.
So therefore, you're really only asking for Evan Longoria to play over there. I mean, really not much more than half the games. If I said, hey, Evan, we want 95 games starting at third base, and we're going to be disciplined with when we pick those to optimize your health, because he would also be a presence for those young left side of the infield players coming up, Villar, maybe Schmidt, maybe even Luciano by the end of the year, it's not a horrible idea.
No, it isn't.
But it has to be paired with boppers.
Yes.
You got to if you do that, then yes, I need that shortstop, or I need that left fielder, or I need that right fielder.
Agreed.
Longo cannot be in the middle of this order. But if it's paired with a few different things, I can see it making sense for $8 million.
Oh, God, I wish they could map. It's so hard, but I wish they could map it up. You told me, Joe, he'll play 90 games. And he's going to be fresh towards September. I'd be like, sign me up. I would. I'd be like, sign me up. Also, you do need to have some veterans in the clubhouse. I think that's something we don't talk enough about. You do, and I know Wilmer's a veteran, but Wilmer barely speaks English. They need a couple of English-speaking guys in that dugout, if for no other reason but to man the media. Because there's a lot of media requests that are going on. I think the average fan doesn't understand some of those nuances, and so it is good to have someone like Evan Longoria in there. But where's Will Wilson at? Where's this guy you're talking about, Casey? Where's he going to be at? Where's Luciano at? Because Luciano, they say shortstop, but then I also see, hey, maybe he gets moved to third. Maybe he goes to right field. Can Longo play a little first base, right? There's lots of questions that I have with this one. I'd like to see him as a DH every now and then. To me,
against
maybe
a
a day or two
pitcher,
in the field.
sure.
Right? A day or two in the field, more at DH. And I know his own pride got in the way over time. But anyway, my point being is I hear you for $8 million. And again, Joe, he plays 90 games and his legs are fresh in September. Sign me up. I just don't know if it can work out.
Right. I will say this, though, similar to what we saw with Joey Bart, where Joey came up and then he went back down and then he came back up and he's a different player. By the way, being at Wrigley on Saturday, that was a bomb, an absolute bomb. But VR has come back up and has gotten pretty interesting as well. And I think that might be why I'm starting to evolve my Longoria opinion, because the idea before was, do you want Longo as your third baseman? And I'm like, no, I don't want Longo as my third baseman. Do you want Longo as your part-time third baseman slash, VR, Casey Schmidt, elder statesman? Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
And David Villar has looked so much better coming back up, so much more comfortable. And that makes sense after your first trip up. Are you going to feel a little bit better the next time? And he became a personal favorite. I got to share a quick story.
Yeah, give it to
my
me.
buddies and I have a home run pool at this game on Saturday. And all the draft picks got made. And me and my buddy were the last two to get a pick. And I had either VR or Bart. And I went with VR. And my other buddy's like, all right, I'm stuck with Joey Bart. He was the last one to the show. He gets there, and Joey Bart right away puts one 3/4 of the way up the bleachers in Wrigley. And so he's squawking. And we're all like a bunch of dudes. We're squawking at each other. And so he is just like, he's the guy in our group who always, like it's easy to get under his skin, but he's got it. Joey's homered. Nobody else is homered. It's the 8th inning. And another one of my group leans forward and whispers in my ear as VR is coming to the plate. He goes, it would be so bananas if this guy hits a home run right now. Our guy John's going to lose his mind if VR hits a home right now. And I go, I know. And Joe, it's off a right-hander. I'm like, he's not supposed to, right? He's had 2 at-bats against the lefty. He had just flown out. Righty comes up, and VR just tanks the thing right over the basket in left field. And I'm like, dude, you're an instant hero. You are like, I will never, ever forget that moment for David Villar, even though it seemed like nothing, turned a 4-2 game into a 5-2 game. My group was going bananas.
I love it.
Bananas at Wrigley Field when that ball left. So I am big on David Villar right now. And I want him to have, at this point, I think it's fair to say, give him a pretty sizable role, or at least set up the path for him to have that next year.
Well, I think one of the biggest frustrations Giants fans have is like, even if you go back to the Bochy era, like Mac Williamson, he'll play a day, sit for 3 or 4 days. And it felt like those guys, those young players, they didn't get the leash that they needed to fail or succeed. VR comes up, it didn't look great. Goes back down, comes back. Here's what he did the last week. He's 8 for 24, 4 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks. He's slugging almost 800. Right now, I don't know if it's sustainable. He hit 2 home runs in 1 game, but I love what I'm seeing in terms of plate presence, discipline, his ability to drive the ball the other way. Like, why not? I've been dying for a young infielder to showcase themselves. Let's see it. And I hope this guy finishes the season on a high note.
It's one of the only things, as a Giants fan, I think you really need to watch, because the other thing to remember about VR is he's played very well consistently now for a while, but this is not someone who was supposed to be the guy. Schmidt, Luciano, that's supposed to be the left side of your infield. VR was not. He's a party crasher. He can play second base as well. He's definitely a DH candidate. He's got enough of a stick to do that. He's an extra base hit machine when he's hitting the ball well. So that's the kind of piece, and a young player and a new name and all of that I think the Giants need to be really open to having a role next year.
And guess what? He actually can run the bases. What a novel concept.
What a thought. I love it.